know, it's funny about the paranormal supernatural. The paranormal is really our expression of our own human consciousness. And yet it scares us. We scare ourselves. We do. Before I get into more of Paranormal Talks, and we do have a website, paranormaltalks.com. Feel free to visit us. The speakers we have every month are listed there for sale in the video store. So if you miss some and you want to get educated, amazing speakers about weird stuff. That's normal, even though we call it paranormal. Please visit the website. Before I get into talking a bit about myself and any more about Paranormal Talks, I want to share with you Kevin Stewart. Kevin Stewart is the owner of Tri-R Carpet Care, Inc. in Denver. His company cleans up crime scenes. You know, where people kill themselves, where people are killed, where there's bullets and knives and mostly blood. Lots of blood. He will be presenting at Paranormal Talks in August. And this is not for the weak stomach because there will be slides that will be shared to show you what he walks into and why there are ghosts at these sites. Now, when we die, we become ghosts. We become spirits. We change our vibration from this slower frequency in our physical body to a much higher vibration where you can't see us anymore, and that's where we're ghosts. But we still have the ability, through our own power, to affect things here in the physical material world. Now, what ghosts do, what ghosts do, we don't move on, is what's easiest for them to play with is electricity and water. So Kevin walks into, and he shared these stories with me, he's writing a book about it, he walks into a crime scene, he goes into the bathroom because some suicide people like a neat and tidy suicide. Because when you cut yourself, you spray and spurt and you make quite a mess. But some people don't understand how far it can actually shoot, so it's gross. So he cleans up these crime scenes. So he goes into the bathroom, and it's the bath is covered with sheets of blood. So he's got to clean it up. That's what he does. He cleans carpet and walls and flooring and ceilings. He turns on the water. Okay, the water's running. He steps back and turns it off. He's got to clean this place. So he turns it on again. Water's running. Turns off. This is what he experiences in crime scenes. This is just one example. Now, Kevin is very psychic. By the way, he's a redhead. I deal with a lot of psychics in my line of work. And I can tell you that natural redheads are genetically predisposed to high psychic natural ability. I see it over and over and over. Okay? Walton Travis, a redhead. Another gentleman who has UFO contacts, redhead. And Kevin Stewart is a redhead. So he gets angry. He says, you got to stop that. I mean, he's actually talking. You got to stop that. You made this mess and I got to clean it up now. You turn the water on again, it stayed on. Okay? That's one story. Another story. He walks into the bedroom, escorted by a young lady into the house. Blood sprayed all over in the bedroom. Is the aunt. She was fading and she wanted to get out of bed to get help. She gets out of bed, she falls, hits her head, and head wounds are very bloody. She hit her head, that's actually what finally killed her, and the blood's all over the place. Well, Kevin walks in and he kneels down next to the bedside table and he begins to clean it. The cabinet door, the bedside table, it pops open. It opens up. Okay, and he closes it, and you know that it closes like click, and it's a hard click. So he starts cleaning it again, and boom, it pops open again. This is what ghosts do. This is what we can do when we die, and these are ghosts in crime scenes. He has so many of these experiences that he's writing a book about it. Now, why did that door keep popping open? Well, the niece comes walking in behind him, and she says, "What's going on here? What are you doing?" And he goes, "Well, this door keeps popping open." She goes, "Well, what's in there?" So they reach in, he pulls out, it's an envelope, and he shows it to her. It has her name on it. She opens it. It's a will made out to her, left by her dead aunt. Now, why she didn't hand it to her before she died, I don't know, but there it was. So this is typical. This is a ghost story. It's not at night. It's in broad daylight. And crime scenes have high levels of this psychic energy still around because of the freshly dead. So that's Kevin Stewart of Tri-Carpet. Now, my background, let me get around to that. I started this in 1964. I started reading all the paranormal supernatural books in my mother's library, my mother's and father's library. I read all the astrology books, tarot books, spiritual books, reincarnation books, you name it, I read all of it, starting in 1964. So I really grew up with that. I have more than 50 years of experience as an astrologer, 30 years as a tarot card reader, and psychic, several years of that, psychic reading. Not mediumship, I don't like ghosts, you guys. I'll leave that to someone else, but psychicness, yes. So that's my background. The baseline I use is Edgar Cayce. Is anyone familiar with Edgar Cayce readings? Okay, that guy, that passes the acid test. He has influenced generations of people with his readings. 80% of his readings, of which is a total of about 15,000 in his lifetime, 15,000 people he read for. 80% of those are health readings, mostly for children. That's what he came here to help, for children with incurable diseases. Edgar Cayce is the what we would call the father of the holistic medicine industry today. That's what I mean. An entity comes into this physical life, and they came here to impact not just their immediate generation, and he did read for leaders of industry, presidents, and leaders of countries, but he came here to influence generations going forward, just as Nostradamus has done. So I was voted in as president of the Edgar Cayce Study Group Council in Los Angeles. I had 16 study groups reporting to me, my council members, and twice a year we would have health fairs where we would bring in health practitioners in the Los Angeles area who would have booths, much as you have out here, and they would provide these health services for the attendees. So it was a really great time in Los Angeles. Los Angeles is really quite a hotbed of metaphysical. Boulder is sort of an equivalent, only in Los Angeles it's way weirder, you guys. Way weirder. I mean, Hollywood's there, remember that. I mean, we have witches, warlocks. It's a main port, so we have people coming in from India and all over the world. So we would have mystics from India come in and channelers. You name it, I have been there because I have been in Los Angeles. So that's my background as J.J. Wells. And Paranormal Talks, it is educational. It is to help awaken us. We're coming into some really troubled times. I know that because I'm psychic. Psychics do run in my family, my mothers, my sisters, my aunts, all the way back 5 generations to the old country. Each one of the ladies in my family, we have our own specialty of psychicness. My sister, my older sister, when we were just children, she would see dead people walk around the house at night. Absolutely terrified her. And for a natural, strong medium, that's normal. It's just we're not trained in this culture, which is a shame. It's a huge, powerful skill, and yet we're not trained to use it. We scare ourselves, and it doesn't help us. My mother is claircognizant. My sister does readings and health healings over the telephone. Me, I'm claircognizant, clairvoyant, and clairsentient. I know what's going on with people. I'm a detective. I know why people do things, and I know where they're going with it. It's kind of a psychological detective. So always be truthful to me because because I'll know. So each one of us have it, and it runs through the family. By the way, if you are psychic, it runs through your family too. It is genetic. I mean, you can actually trace it to the flesh body. Isn't that handy? Yeah. So we do come here with this natural ability. It's not supernatural, it is natural. It's not paranormal, which is above normal. It's normal. And it's a shame that in our culture, the Western culture, we don't respect it. In fact, we reject it, which is a shame because it's a very, very necessary skill that can help us navigate more successfully through life. Successful in all different ways. So that's my deal. Now, we have many speakers, and the ones that I really like to go after are the ones who have died and returned from the dead. The ET abductees, yeah. The UFO abductees, yeah. The out-of-body experiences, yeah. But the ones who died and returned from the dead, they have been there and then come back, willingly or not. So those are what I call really past the acid test. They kind of are next to Edgar Casey. Maybe not as evolved spiritually, but man, those people are different when they return. Highly, highly psychic. Let me tell you about Nancy Rhines. I sort of discovered Nancy Rhines. She spoke for the first time at Paranormal Talks here in Greenwood Village. She lives in Boulder. She was killed in Boulder while she was out bicycling. She was hit by a sub. The sub never saw that it hit her because the driver was texting. Hit her on the bicycle. She landed on the front hood. She fell underneath, and the driver is texting and driving and texting. As Nancy is dragged underneath the vehicle, she grabs on to the transaxle so she wouldn't be crushed by the wheels. And the sub is dragging her around. And she's texting. The sub only stopped because a doctor who happened to have gotten off from his shift saw what had happened, and he actually ran into head-on with the sub, who finally stopped because he was blocking her way. Well, Nancy falls, and she's pulled out from underneath, and Nancy's really angry. She's going to jump up, and she's going to get this driver for trying to kill her. Well, the driver did kill her because she died later on there on the ground. But she was going to leap up and get after that driver. And a lady comes running in from the side, and she holds Nancy down on the ground. She goes, "No, stay there, stay there, stay there." That lady was never found at the crime scene, even with the officer taking all the names and numbers. They never did find that lady. If Nancy would have jumped up, Nancy would have been crippled for life because it broke her hips, her legs, her ribs, all of it. And Nancy returned not from the dead once, but about 3 times. Now, sometimes when you die, you're not dead for an hour or so, although she was dead for several minutes. And she came back from the dead, highly, highly psychic now. And when that happens to you, there are classic things where your life changes totally. It takes a new direction. If you were in, say, accounting or computer programming, one of these left brain careers, you can't do it anymore. I've talked to so many dead people, they can't continue with that. Their career totally changes. Their relationships usually change. Have you ever heard of Danny and Brinkley? They made a movie about his, Saved by the Light. Yeah. He's classic. Now, only about 7 to 10% of the death experiencers actually have a life review, where you see your entire life, what you did and what other people did. And Jonathan, are you timing this?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Just about 15
I usually
minutes.
have a timer or someone in the room, so we don't step on anyone else's time.
Yeah, just at 15 minutes at this point.
Okay, see? That's very helpful.